Not too many of you might know this, but I played a lot of basketball as a kid, including university-level basketball back in Belgium before coming to the United States. Still today, I interleave a good amount of sports into my workdays, especially so running, biking, and tennis. And I also follow a lot of professional sports. Sports and AI are both daily activities for me, but they rarely intersect. So I'm very excited that they are about to intersect right now. On today's show, we welcome Param Hegde, the Chief Technology Officer of Catapult Sports. Catapult Sports creates sport-specific algorithms that help athletes improve performance. Soccer, basketball, football, cricket, hockey, rugby, baseball, NASCAR, Catapult Sports has it covered. Welcome to the show, Param. I'm so excited to get to talk about AI in sports in the same conversation here today with you.
Thanks, Peter. Thanks for having me. I'm very excited. I'm also a sports fan like you, and I play a lot of sports. And I am also very interested in AI, so it's a great topic. I'm excited to talk with you.
Yeah, you found the perfect job.
Yes.
So, to dive right in, Catapult says, we exist to unleash the potential of every athlete and team on Earth. And indeed, Catapult works with over 3,200 elite teams globally, including the entire NFL, various NBA teams, Major League Baseball teams, NHL teams, NCAA teams, majority of the English Premier League, the Bundesliga, Super League Rugby, and the list goes on. So what does it mean when you say unleashing the potential of every athlete and team on Earth?
Great question. So as you narrated, our tagline is, and our mission is to unleash the potential of athlete and teams. As you noted, you name any league in the world, there are teams who are our customers. So we have a lot of several products. We're a software company, right? So we use our product offerings to help these athletes, to be their best whenever they either they show up at their practice or at the game. So we have several ways we help them through our products. We have a lot of video analysis products. We have wearable technology products. We have analytics, data platforms. Through various ways, we help them. And for me, particularly, it's super exciting because you wake up every morning and you show up at work thinking that the work you do and your teams do is making huge difference in some athletes' life, right? I think, and it's all science driven and technology driven. So now when you aid that with the knowledge, with the customers how they have been doing for years, right? When you combine all these things, there is a great outcomes for everyone involved.
Now, you support so many athletes and teams. Can you give a few concrete examples of maybe some of your favorites of the kind of product certain teams and athletes are using?
I'm a cricket fan. I grew up in India, so like everybody there, I followed cricket. Wanted to be a big cricketer growing up, right? But soon you realized, that was not going to happen. So we have developed so many solutions at this point of time. One of my favorite thing is we have developed a solution to how to deliver a cricket ball with maximum accuracy, right? Because every fast bowler, their dream is to, get into the head of the hitter, right? The equivalent of hitter in baseball, the batsman. And a lot of them are injury prone all the time. They play couple of good games, and then you get injured. So we, through our wearable technology, we have solutions which help them how to maximize the run up, because you have a long run up. Then how do you deliver the ball? And more importantly, since I mentioned about injury, how to get them back into the real games, all right, after somebody is injured. So those are some of my favorite example. And you mentioned you are a basketball fan. So yeah,
yes.
we have a solution which accurately actually helps predicting the jumps, because as you know, like getting a good jump in a basketball is very important. So we recently developed a solution using our wearable plus video, right, together, because when we have a lot of high accurate cameras during the session, practice sessions you can capture, and also during the game. So we have a solution. We have developed a solution by looking at both together, accurately helping you, how you are doing during the practice session, right? So lot of examples like this, and we recently, our athletes won something like 24 medals in Tokyo Olympics.
Wow.
So we take a lot of pride in supporting them. So whether it's rowing to any individual sports to a team sports, so we really help them get better every day. So so far a lot of times it depends upon coach's intuition and their understanding of the game, right? How to make you feel better. And we continuously see these athletes embracing the technology and coaches embracing the technology. So we believe when you put the existing knowledge of these coaches and physios and all the supporting staff, sports scientists, combine that with data and AI, that's where we start to make huge difference. That's how we're helping them.
Now, when you said basketball jumping, how should I imagine this? Is this a technology where it can teach you to jump higher, or what does it do?
It's the timing of the jump is everything, right? I think I'm not a great basketball player, but I watch a lot of it. Yeah, it's anywhere between anything between when you move with the ball, and how did you time your jump before taking a shot, right? Whether it's a 3-pointer or behind the arc, or what's your movement look like when you're taking free throws. And we've all seen, my favorite example is I've seen in the playoffs, all these great players, how they struggle to take free throws, which can make a huge difference in the game's outcome, right? So when you're coaching that star player who is really great at the rim, who jump high there, but while you are taking a free throw, your mechanics, so you can easily capture all that through the wearable they wear, right? Or wearable device. Then you have all these cameras. As I said, when you combine these two things, that's where our secret sauce starts to show up.
Now, I'm curious, if I double click on this as a player, I'm being recorded.
Yeah.
I have all these wearables. Do I then have to analyze this on my own as a player and watch myself in these feeds, or is there actual suggestions that come directly back to me, pointing out things to change or specific little snippets to watch? How does that work when I'm a player?
How it is done today, as you know, traditionally it is done is you videotape the sessions, practice sessions or the games. You watch the game video after the game is done, and you go through with the player, right? As a coaching staff, hey, this is what I want you to improve. They they point out, right? So our solution started as a descriptive solution, right? So we have wearable device and we have video. So we have a lot of video analysis software, and we helped these coaches and coaching staff to work with these players pointing them with the data, along with what they saw, right? Because they were there when that happened. But then they also had the software and the solution, which helps them to double check or help them reinforce what they saw. That's how it all started. Then now it's moving more into predictive moments and prescriptive, right? So we are in that journey. So basically, we are taking away this burden from the player itself, but we are helping through our software to help both coaching staff and the players, because we produce two sets of outcomes, right? How the coaching staff need to help the player, and also if the player want to consume this after the session, what are they seeing? So we automate all that thing in our software. That's where like a lot of AI and data come into picture. Our algorithms help prepare those, recommendations in some cases, or even accurately pinpointing, hey, this is what happened. Therefore, you couldn't do this. If you had done this, outcome could have been better, right? I think that's how all the conversation. So you can have this conversation with more backed by the data and science, actually, along with the expertise these folks have.
Now, you're saying AI is backing a lot of this. It's more than just recording data. It's going to find the things that are interesting to look at and even make prescriptive recommendations. When you say AI, can you say a bit more about how does this work? What's behind the scenes? A lot of what we've discussed in this podcast is, deep neural networks capturing patterns in data. Yeah. Is something similar happening here? Can you say a bit more?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there are multiple things at play. So we have a lot of supervised learning techniques which are in play. In fact, I wanted to point out, before the whole data science and the data explosion which happened, in last decade, right? As you are very well aware, we had built a bunch of expert system-based AI algorithms into these products. So it all starts for us with our wearable devices, where these athletes wear, and they generate very high frequency data for us, right? So we have a set of algorithms which run on the edge. So that's how it started. So we have algorithms on the edge, even within the devices, right? Which helps you, because, these devices are very intelligent in nature. So they have accelerometers, gyros, and, whatnot. So 3-dimension data. So how do you take that and make sense of those high frequency data? That's where a lot of secret sauce exists, right? So we have some, AI algorithms that's where the whole thing starts. Then when we also have a lot of video, computer vision based technologies. Then what we have done over the years is, as the data became much, much more, and the computing and the storage in the cloud became more affordable. And so we have taken advantage of that. So our whole AI solution has evolved in the last decade, along with the landscape itself. So now it allows us to do interesting things, bringing all these things together into the cloud, taking advantage of the infrastructure there. And to answer your question specifically, that allows us to, sit and observe, right? You can start thinking about, you can build bots who are sitting and observing. These are all software bots. There are certain things we know what's happening in the sports, and there are certain things we don't know. We discover, as we go. That's where a lot of neural network and deep learning coming into play. So we are extremely uniquely positioned as a company because of you have the wearable data and video together. That's where you can start building these very interesting, algorithms using AI.
Now, one of the things, for example, when watching soccer, that's pretty common, is they'll say something like, this team has this percentage possession, right? 60% yes. Possession for this side. And they show that on TV. And so I guess either somebody is tracking that, or they have some software that's tracking that. I mean, that they use for tracking this. And that's one thing. But I imagine that, for example, for soccer, you're able to use computer vision to track a lot more detail than just the possession. Can you say a bit more about what are some examples of things that you're able to extract?
Yeah, absolutely. Specifically using computer vision, I know we have a product called Match Tracker, by the way, which does exactly what you just described. So, when the game is going on or a practice session is going on, it's very common to tag the events, right? A goal is scored or somebody missed it. All those things happen. That's part of the tagging and the event generation during the broadcasting. You see all that, and you also keep track of the possessions, and these are all basic broadcasting use cases. But on the other hand, as I mentioned, we are in the performance business, right? Our company, we are observing, how to help this team and these athletes to get better next time and next time after that, right? So it's a long game for us. So we are taking that video as it happens, and also post session. We are looking for things from the performance analysis perspective. Classic example is, hey, there is a kick which happened at 65th minute, but however, it didn't happen the way this person I expected this player to do. Then we go back and look. We have the variable data. We have supplementary data sets to add context to it. Why, right? So that helps us to come back. Okay, in the video plus the variable data together, then we can add more context. So then you go back and so there are several examples like this. So you can start creating, during the practice session as well as during the game.
Could I imagine something where some substitutions are recommended to the coaches to consider because it's tracking real time? Somebody starts to move slower, react a bit slower than they normally do, things like that.
So every league, as you probably know, has different rules. So I think eventually some of the rules will be relaxed. I'm not an expert in some of these rules across the leagues, but you are absolutely right. So that's the kind of use cases which will start to form, and we're already talking about whether it's in football or in American football, right? Wherein it's a lot of contact sports in general, where you can start preventing, do these intelligent substitutions or even prevent an injury, for example, because you do see some things in the sports, either through wearable data which is coming, these players are wearing, or through the video which you're observing, right? So when you correlate these two things together, and with few other data sets we'll have access to, that's when you can start building these extremely intelligent use cases. Yeah.
Now, thinking back to the computer vision side of things, which, computer vision has been completely revolutionized in the last 5 to 10 years compared to what was possible before. I'm kind of curious what kind of progression you have seen in terms of what you're able to get from these video streams, let's say 5-10 years ago, and what you're able to get now. And where do you see this headed? What is the information that could be extracted maybe a few years from now as AI keeps getting better and you collect more and more video data from all the players and teams?
Yeah, it's a great question, Peter. I think in threes, right? One is the cameras themselves, the data generators are going to be fast and more accurate, and that data. Then the pipe infrastructure carrying that to the cloud, right, which has evolved tremendously in the last 2 decades. That will continue to evolve, whether it is on 5G or 6G, because now you really don't need to be constrained by the local area networks in the stadiums and other places. Then the computing in the cloud is evolving extremely fast-paced, right? Whether it is at the chipsets or like the storage in general and the computing in general. So when you combine these three things together, and in my head, all the research element which has gone, I was thinking before coming here, before 2008, 2009, if you are doing computer vision, so many limitations, right? And there were not too many practical applications. So now, even you are accurately like marrying two sides, the research angle of it, which is happening, and also um, the advancements which are happening in computing and in the industry in general. To me, that's where now you have more tools available, software tools, open source, and the whole group of people who are doing itself has enormously increased. Therefore, you are the beneficiary of that, and sports will be no different in my head. So now you can take a live video stream and start applying machine learning on that, because it was unthinkable, a few years ago. How do you take all these video streams and apply CV on it? Because you have multiple camera angles, right, in the stadium. So you have to triangulate them, and you have to build a system where each camera can be providing you interesting data points. So how do you so the compute, the horsepower which is available in the compute, will change all these things. So now you can start to process it very quickly. Then once you start processing it, you can apply the models, right? Run through that real-time data through the pre-built models. Then you can start creating pretty much real-time insights. That's where I'm excited about, this whole thing is going to be headed.
So you get these real-time insights, and it can really change the game in many cases. I can see why there might be rules about it, and to make sure there's a level playing field.
Yeah.
As you start building this, and this becomes more and more automated, right? Yeah. It seems like one of the big things that could happen is right now you're focused on professional sports. They used to already have scouts taking notes of so many things. And so now they get more consistent coverage, but they were already doing this. But there are so many other sports happening, so many places that are not professional, where there is no scouting. And I wonder, can the same thing be applied there? Imagine you just set up your iPhone on a tripod on the side of the field and let it record and see what can you get out of this.
Absolutely. I think we actually have a business unit which focuses exactly what you are describing. So in my head, as you correctly noted, there are a lot of technologies and tools available in the pro sports, because that's about gaining that extra advantage, right? Extra 1 second advantage in motorsporting, for example. I don't know how much you follow the motorsporting. So yesterday there was Abu Dhabi, Formula One race. Yesterday I was watching last night, and
the biggest race of many years.
Yeah. So you get passed in the last second, right, to go into the second place. So those optimizations will continue in this pro sports, and AI will continue to help with those use cases. But real interesting things and real innovation will happen. Already happening is in the consumer space, as well as even before that, this tier 3, tier 4 sports team, we call it as, because in our lingo, tier 1 and tier 2 you can be thinking them as pro sports team and college teams, right? Then you get into high school teams, the example you are providing. I want to record a high school team where my kid is playing, and can the same technology which is available in the pro can be made available through, as I said, iPhones versus your general smartphones, their camera technology is getting better in every release, right? And getting cheaper. And the processing you can do even on these devices with the computing power available on the edge is unbelievable compared to 8-10 years ago. So now you start to kind of bring these technologies which are at the pro level, and then the tier 2 at the college level, into high school, or even you said you are an aspiring, or you continue to aspire to be a better basketball player. I am the same way, playing in the the leagues, right, of my age group. So I'm still competitive there, right? So I want the same technologies there. I want to win. So, so and I keep thinking about how does this technology can help, not only for my use case and the kids in high school or even some sports leagues which doesn't have these kind of resources, right? Which these leagues have it, and that's where the real innovation in next few years, these advancement in computer vision or wearable and you name it, um, that's going to make a huge difference. As I said, going to descriptive to predictive to prescriptive, because I dream of a day wherein somebody coaches me on my marathon training, right? So so there are so many these aspiring athletes who can now take a device and wear it before starting it, or have a camera, something captures their training and comes back and tells them how to get better. I think that's a great next set of things, how to bring this technology into consumers. So
Well, I look forward to that continuing to happen. Now, one thing with today's machine learning, of course, is that assuming it's built on supervised learning, then it's going to do as well as essentially the data that was annotated in the past. And so it seems like it would assume that you would have professional coaches on your staff who can help annotate data that the neural nets can learn from. So I'm curious about that. Do you have professional coaches that do this? Because usually data annotation is seen as something that's an easy thing to do, but it seems in this case it would be very different.
Yeah, so it's a great point you're making. Actually, some of our video products started as you capture the video. I don't know whether you are aware. There are humans sitting behind and annotating that video. Actually, right now, that's what happens. So our first generation of products helped exactly do that. A goal is scored, or in case of American football, it's a first down or second down, third down, right? So you're watching the video in the stadium and you are annotating using our software, right? So our software actually has that video and it has a capability to annotate the event. So that's a leg up we have, right? Because we have all this annotated video already. So we always think about how to even automate that. So using computer vision so that there is no human beings need to annotate it, right? So but secondly, like once, since we have so many annotated video sets already, that to your point, the biggest challenge in, CV was to having all these people classifying your cats and dogs, right, in an image. So
Yes.
that's your you have to go and find these. I heard one of your guests talking about cheap undergrad students, or somebody who can do this right for you. But here we have that advantage of annotated videos. So that's to us is is a big advantage, because now when you are watching the video, it's annotated, then you combine our variables. So we already have some interesting things going on. But you have to continue to label it better. It's not always going to be accurate, but it's because of the need in the sports leagues after the session is over or games are over. Not only these people who are watching it are labeling it, then comes the sport, the coaching staff comes and reviews it and relabels it. So by end of 48 hours after the game, you have a very good annotated data sets available already. But in order to bring that technology, as I said, to the consumer level, right? So now you need to automate it, because you are the person who is taking the video and you are the person behind watching the game. So you don't want to sit and label there. So there are some good opportunities there to automate it using the CV.
Yeah, one thing that I imagine will be interesting in the future, and I'm curious about your take, is especially for team sports. If you think about kids playing team sports, I mean, there's so much going on at the same time. And if I think about, for example, kids playing soccer, it's very easy to track who scores the goals. And you say, okay, this kid scored 10 goals the last few weeks, so clearly they're playing well. But if I think about the other side, people playing on the defensive side, like who's making all the stops on the defensive side. For the goalie, it'll be clear, but for the defenders in front of the goalie, like who's even tracking that? Who knows who's playing well there? It seems like that information is much harder to get. Who is the right positioning and so forth to actually help the team win.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you're making a great point there. We have seen historically, we ourselves creating a lot of position-based analytics products. Like we just recently announced a partnership with Boston Bruins and LA Kings, creating a hockey analytics. So similar thing. So we have similar to that. We have soccer goalie analytics, right? So you focus on that. But the next level of things is how these formations are looking, right? From the defensive angle. So for me, it's an unsolved little bit of territory, the problem where you start getting into now, as I said, start recognizing those patterns, right? Because you did this X, Y, and Z in the last game, therefore you allowed these many goals. It's not just the goalie who is responsible for that, but what happened, 4 minutes before that happened, right? So you should be able to go back and put in the context. So then while you're doing that, so you have to sit there and start analyzing and recognizing those patterns. That's where I think your deep neural nets will start to kind of form, because now not only you are inputting what happened 4 minutes ago, then what are the subsequent things which happened, created these formations, therefore something you allowed the goal, right? So those are the moments you should be able to come back and take into an account and imagine, use that in game preparations, right? Then and also you add another dimension to this. Now you know who are your opponent for the next game, and you have a lot of data sets and how they have done. So there is the layers of coaching decisions you can start making. And that's where, as I said, in the pro, you will start to optimize. And then you start bringing that into the consumer level, right? Some version of it. So therefore, if you're a high school coach, coaching or a little league, right, in your hometown, how can you have these conversations with these players, these young kids who can understand it and start putting the same techniques there? That to me is very exciting at some point.
You've been at Catapult for a little while now. You've already done a lot, but as you look ahead, you think about kind of the big picture vision of what might be possible in the next 5 to 10 years at the intersection of AI and sports. What do you see? What do you see at Catapult? And maybe what are some things you see that Catapult might not be undertaking, but that will also be big in AI and sports?
Yeah, as I said, sports, you can think of there are a lot of things happen in sports, right? We are focused on coaching and performance analysis aspects of it, because we are in the business of helping teams and coaches and athletes, right? That's our mission. So, but you can also think there are a lot of AI can be used in sports for betting and whatnot. So we are not super interested in that as a company right now, because so I do see the biggest thing which is happening is, as I explained before, bringing these tools in pro into the consumer. How do you bridge that gap as you make the advancement in AI, right? And do it in a way it's affordable, right? Because now we have democratized the data pretty much, So now you have to democratize the AI. That's to me is the big thing. And as an industry, For us specifically, we are excited about contextualizing everything, right? Because as I said, there are wearable devices which tells you certain things from the data. Then you have vision, computer vision. So when you mix these things and eventually with health data, right? You have to be very careful about it with privacy and all those things, which we understand as a company extremely. That's our DNA actually. All right. We have been doing this, keeping our customers' data in such a secure way, and so. But when you start bringing those third element of it, then you start to kind of create very interesting solutions at the pro level. Then you got to bring that to the next level. So now you imagine all of a sudden you are putting, tens of millions of athletes, because I'm a firm believer that everybody is an athlete, right? Every human being is an athlete. It is a question of, some people talk about it, some people don't. But how do you help each one of them all around the world to be a better athlete? That's the mission which excites me.
Well, that's absolutely beautiful, Param. I hope you can make it happen.
Absolutely.
Maybe I can improve my tennis game in the next few years.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm up for a game at some point. So I hope somebody builds that robot I'm talking about with a vision and something which basically tells me, like, during the practice session, hey, there is a lot of wind going on. Like, you may want to consider how hard you are hitting your forehand or something like that.
Oh, beautiful. Well, Param, thanks so much for coming on. It's a really wonderful conversation. Absolutely great to have you here.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.